So let me ask you the simple question. It seems like a fairly simple thing to just clarify. The Supreme Court wasn't saying you can't deport these people. They said exactly what does it mean to say an aggravated felony. Can the Congress get that done?
They should be able to. I think it's pretty crystal clear to the American public. But the problem is Congress is broken. And, you know, we witnessed that with this horrible omnibus bill, David. So I don't know if they're capable. You know, it seems like right now the only thing that holds us up is the Senate. They're non-germane rules that actually they govern themselves by, so they don't have to take controversial votes.
So if it's really an issue for the Senate, only a third of those people get to be reelected in November. Do we have any hope that Congress may get its act together after November?
I hope so, and I think we can still do that right now, David, because I implore the American public to get involved and tell your senators to start taking up bills and having a voice. Make a decision, have the debate, and take a vote.
What about leadership over on the House side, Mr. Congressman? I mean, you're going to have a change here because Paul Ryan's not even running for re-election, as it were.
Right.
Now, we'll find out whether you have a majority of Democrats or Republicans come November. Let's assume it's the Republicans. Who do you want to be the leader? Are you happy with Mr. McCarthy? Do you have another candidate in mind?
I want somebody that gets back to the rule of law and gets back to good policy. And the only way you do that is by good procedure. What we saw was a total breakdown, David, of the process. We had 4 people actually construct this whole omnibus bill, totally defying looking at how you do a budget and the appropriation process. You know, if you're in good favors with leadership, you get your bills on the floor. If you don't, you don't. And that's problematic. So right now, I want to see new blood. I want to see reinvigorate that process, getting back to our constitutional oversight.
We've heard reports that the House Freedom Caucus member, Representative Jim Jordan, had expressed interest in running for the Speaker role. Given that winning that role would be actually difficult, do you still think that a House Freedom Caucus member should run?
I don't think it's that hard. I think, you know, what I see here about strategy is very, very poor, Sherry Ann. And the fact that you have to start looking at the dynamics. It takes 218. It's one of the few races you have to go public on. So you need 218 to get that vote on the floor. So how resolved are you about getting back to process? Is America worth it? I think it is. And I think there's a number of people that are willing to say, no, it's not just who's next in line, it's who's right for that job. And so I think there's a good way for the American people to chime in. Jim Jordan sounds like a wonderful guy to me. As you know, in the past, I supported Dan Webster, who actually has a pedigree of getting good process, which builds good policy, which builds good politics.
Having a good relationship with President Trump, would that be an asset in that role?
I think it also helps because what you want to do is you actually want to, he's definitely got the right tenor. You know, you look at the tax cuts, you look at his gut instincts, rules and regulations, the streamlining. It would imagine what we could have done for the last year and a half, Sherry Ann, if we would have just embraced the president and started working together instead of he said, she said, and being upset that somebody from outside actually won. I can relate for that because I was somebody that came from the outside that won, and you can accomplish a lot if you just actually put your foot down and follow the process.
Congressman, let's turn for a moment to Syria. There were those missile strikes over last Friday night into Saturday morning, and you've spoken out on that. I've read reports, at least, that you have some doubts in your mind about whether Bashar al-Assad was actually behind them. Do you doubt that?
I do. I still do. And the problem is that isn't it interesting last April when we had the strikes is right, it followed immediately after when we said there would be no regime change. This week, or when they actually struck recently, what ends up happening, we were actually saying we were going to pull out of Syria. And when you look at the Islamic regimes, they'll actually do this to themselves, i.e. the reported aspect in Bosnia where the Islamists actually turned it on them to create a stir. It doesn't make sense to me because Bashar al-Assad is actually winning the war. Why would he do this and why would he poke the tiger in the eye? Maybe it's for something else. I don't know.
Well, in that event, are you for or against consultation with Congress, maybe a war powers resolution or something on this? Because a number of your colleagues have said there should have been some consultation. Certainly now we should be taking to Congress. But if you have a different view about Bashar al-Assad, would you have supported these strikes?
Well, my thing is I think you have to have consultation with Congress because if you're talking about a Syrian civil war, I don't think that's part of the AUMF that they even allude to. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. If there's a direct threat to the United States, I can understand where the president goes with. But the problem that I see here is we've had boots on the ground. The American people need to understand boots have been in the ground, whether they're calling in airstrikes or intelligence services, and we need to have that consultation with Congress. Not the minutia, but to have the jurisdiction that we're there for a reason, and what is that reason?
We've been getting conflicting reports from the UN ambassador to the U.S., Nikki Haley, on more sanctions against Russia. Are you getting clear guidance from the White House what they're trying to do in regards to not only Russia, but also just general foreign policy?
We don't, you know, that's not my committee of jurisdiction, but we have not really got a uniform policy aspect from Nikki Haley or from the White House. But I don't know that we're totally entitled to do that, because there's so many playing pieces on that, whether it being North Korea, whether it being Syria and Russia. When you start looking at Russia, there's definitely trade implications here with uranium, titanium, and the restrictions that they could actually do within our economy and our energy grid, as well as our military.